With the massive buffs that incantations have received in the recent Elden Ring patch, we've put together a new hybrid build using some of the lesser previously used incantations that are now very good or just outright incredible in the right scenarios, so that you can try something new and fun in this recent patch. We've already gone over power stance faith builds, an intelligence build, as well as a one-shot faith build, so this one's going to be our hybrid faith intelligence build, utilizing the specific incantations that receive damage buffs in the latest patch, and let me tell you, it's incredibly fun, incredibly easy to play, and outputs really good damage really consistently. So if you do enjoy these kind of build videos, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe, and let us know in the comments if you think anything could be tweaked or added to this build, as I intend for it to be a template for you to tweak to your own personal playstyle. I'm Paradise, so let's jump in with the first and primary spell of this build, which is going to be the Triple Rings of Light. In patch 1.04, the newest one, it's just straight up got increased damage, and this is one of the incantations of the Golden Order fundamentalists. It basically produces 3 rings of light that fire forwards, and then boomerang back towards the caster, dealing damage both on the way out and the way back in, and it can be cast rapidly, repeatedly in quick succession. The only drawback that I can think of for this incantation is that the 3 rings that you send out won't connect to the same mob. It's basically 1 ring per mob on the way there and back, but the damage is still good enough that it's still very good and very fun and very fast to cast. Lore-wise, this spell is really quite cool as well. It's a gift from young Miquella to his father Radagon, and we also already know that young Miquella does actually abandon the Golden Order fundamentalists because it couldn't cure Malenia's rot. So in terms of the story, I do really like what's going on here. You can find this in the Brace of the Haligtree area from the Prayer Room Grace Point, head outside along the eastern walkway, drop down until you see a room that's blocked by fog, which will require 2 stone sword keys to unlock it. This has got a 23 requirement for both intelligence and faith to use, which is why we're leaning into the hybrid stats for this build, as we're already having to invest in both int and faith for several of the incantations in this build. I'm further leaning into that by committing to these stats and using the appropriate seals and gear to boost us further. The next spell that we're going to focus on is Radagon's Rings of Light. This in the recent patch had decreased FP cost, increased damage and cast speed, and decreased recovery time, so a big buff to this one. And let me tell you, although the cast time is still kind of long, this thing does chonk and does have a big AoE around you. So this is an excellent option for doing a big chunk of AoE damage to a bunch of mobs around you, or if you just need to get that last tick of health off of a boss or a bigger enemy. This one does require both 31 intelligence and faith, so the same reasons as we mentioned before, leaning into that investment in the hybrid build. And you'll need to get the Golden Order Principia, I think that's how you say it, which is located on a chair hanging from the ceiling directly above the Erdtree Sanctuary site in Lindell, the royal capital. I've also chosen to include the Black Flame in this build for a variety of reasons, but also because the patch increased the damage of this spell, as well as making it more likely to break an enemy's guard. In other words, it does higher poise damage, I believe that's what it means. This is a absolutely fantastic incantation because not only does it do a chunk of damage when it connects with an enemy, it also leaves them with a debuff that drains their HP, which is based upon their max HP, I believe, which makes this incredible for high health enemies and bosses. It's a very good opener before you go into a fight to spam our other incantations. You can get this one in Stormvale Castle. The nearest site of grace is the Liftside Chamber, and you will need a stone sword key to get it. I've also chosen to include Placidusac's Ruin because in the recent patch they decreased the FP cost, stamina cost, and improved the recovery time of it, so it's another one that's been buffed and it just looks really cool and is pretty good in a lot of scenarios, but to be honest, you could replace this with whatever you want. I've just chosen it because it's quite the spectacle. Then for our buff incantations that will further improve our damage and survivability, I've gone for Golden Vow for that tasty 15% increased damage and 10% damage reduction. I've also gone for Howl of Shabriri, which will also give us another 25% increased damage output. And then the next 2 buffs are completely optional, but the Black Flame's Protection will give us 35% physical damage negation, which will help us be a bit more tanky, as well as either the Blessing of the Erdtree or Bestial Vitality for some healing over time while we're battling. You can obviously drop the buffs that you don't like or add in more that you do like, but these ones just make you output more damage and make you more tanky and more survivable. Moving on to the armor now, we are using the Great Hood as this gives us both +2 for int and faith, but it does lower our health by 10%. This is probably the better of the head items when it comes to both int and faith hybrid builds, so we're using it for those extra +2 stats to both int and faith. You can get this as a reward for solving the sorcerer's painting puzzle, and it will start by finding the actual painting in Castle Sol, and then going to the mountaintops of the giants on a bridge to find the spirit, and we'll give you guys the gameplay so you know exactly where to go. For the rest of the armor, I've gone with the Mausoleum Knight set because it gives you some nice survivability and looks really cool in my opinion, and it can be very easily farmed by killing the knight that's just outside of the Black Knife Catacombs and repeating for each armor piece until you have the set. Now we need to talk about the seal and the offhand. We're of course using the Golden Order seal. This will make our incantations scale with int and faith. Of course we are a hybrid build, and it also enhances Golden Order fundamentalist incantations, which includes our main damage dealers, the Triple Rings of Light and the Radagon's Ring of Light. So this is going to be absolutely perfect for us. You can find this on a dead body near the Minor Erdtree Church Site of Grace in Lindell, the royal capital. For our offhand, we're using the Jellyfish Shield. This is purely for the unique skill Contagious Fury to boost all damage by 20% for 30 seconds, and it can be found here in Liurnia of the Lakes. Moving on to the talismans, we're going to start with the Sacred Scorpion Charm. For that increased holy damage by 12%, but it does increase physical damage taken by 10%. This is why our previously mentioned Black Flame's protection will help mitigate the increased damage that we're taking through some of these talismans. We also have the Ritual Sword Talisman for an increased attack power of 10% while at full health, and this will apply to our incantations. There's also the Flock Canvas Talisman for another 8% increase in the potency of our incantations, and then finally Marika's Saw Seal to further boost our Mind, Int, Faith and Arcane by +5 each, but we do take another 15% increased damage. This is purely optional, but I do like that we get that extra Mind for a bit more mana, as well as +5 to Int and Faith, which is our primary damage dealing stats. So it's quite valuable because it's giving us a lot of our primary stats. And speaking of stats, let's go over the stats next. We're going to begin with Vigor. This is, of course, whatever Vigor you are comfortable with. I personally find 30 to 40 to be the sweet spot, but it's up to you. And then for Mind, I've gone for 30, as this is a comfy amount for most summons in the game, as well as spamming the spells we need in this build. For Endurance, I've gone for 20, which is just about enough for the equipment load that we need, as well as the stamina we need to spam our spells. For Strength, you will need 20 for the Jellyfish Shield. For Dex, you will need 14, again for the Jellyfish Shield. And then Int and Faith, I recommend a minimum of 45. Ideally 60, or even better 80 in each, obviously depending on the level of your build. These are the soft caps 60 and 80 for incantation and sorcery scaling, and we're a hybrid, so we really want to get them together above 45, ideally at the soft caps of 60 or 80. With everything combined with these stats, you are going to be walking around like an absolute boss in Elden Ring, throwing massive, flashy rings of light, black flame, huge AoE rings around you, as well as whatever other incantations you want to bring. This is a very powerful hybrid build, utilizing and focusing on the increased buffed incantations from the latest patch, so I hope you found this helpful, or at least interesting, to try something new considering that things have been mixed up in this recent patch. And if you already want to have a one-shot or other strong builds, we already have those options on the channel for you already, so make sure to go and check those out. Again, let us know in the comments any tweaks or changes that you would add to this build. I really love it when I can get feedback on these things. This is a template for you guys. Thank you for watching, everybody. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you did enjoy the video. And on screen right now, we have lots more Elden Ring videos that we think you will be really interested in, so why not check them out on the screen now.